Good morning, everybody. This is Robin from Roaming with Rover, and this is Finish It Friday. Well, I finally got to work on a few things, and okay, let's just jump right in there and tell you what's going on. So, in no particular order. All right, okay, and of course now the fan starts in. The heater jumps in now. It's cold, so we're gonna let that heater go. All right, let's start with this right here just because it's the closest and handiest. So I am working on this pattern, and it is called, what is it called? It is called the Blitzen. It's an heirloom stocking. It's by Brooklyn & Company handcrafted. She's got 4 of these stockings, and the one I'm working on first is the Nordic heirloom stocking. Nordic heirloom stocking. It's very pretty. I planned on making at least 2 of them. Plans, right? The whole point of doing this was so I could learn how to do the waistcoat stitch, which is also known as the split single crochet. It is also known as the knit look crochet. I think it's called something else as well. Let me tell you, I struggled with this. The stitch itself is very simple. The problem that I had with it was the fact that doing it in the round, and even that's not a problem. Normally there is a million YouTube videos out there on how to do this, and every one of them is got you going back and forth. Very easy to do if you're doing it that way. I'm going to do a video showing you the problems that I had, and that's going to be released later this month. But if you're doing this stitch, no, I don't want to drop my hook. If you're doing this stitch back and forth, you do the stitch and then you turn it over and you do the stitch. Well, you can clearly see what to do when you turn it over. And even if you're doing it in the round, if you start and you go around and around and around, it's the same thing. You can clearly see what you're doing. But when you do it like this kind of in the round, it looks completely different than any other way of doing it. So I was having problems, and not only was I doing it in a round like this, a circle round, I'm using this very, very dark yarn, and I can't see what the gal is doing on her video. So it was a combination of all kinds of fun things. And it turned out, after several days of frustration, I was doing it right all along. But I didn't know if I was doing it right. So I kept tearing it out and doing it again, and tearing it out and doing it again. And so thankfully, Miss Dana did it. I sent the stuff to her, and she was doing it. And so she and I were talking and sending pictures to each other with parts circled, and we decided I was doing it right. And then the adorable Miss Cheryl Wells, she actually did a little video. She filmed a video and sent it to me and showed me that I was doing it right. And she found a dark color and did the circle. I'll tell you what, I am blown away with the amount of help and support, and I'm tearing up because I don't know, I have nobody in my world that I know a couple of people, my grands, and the adorable Miss Morgan, and they crochet, but they're very beginning crocheters. And I really don't have anybody in my world that I can go up to and say, hey, I'm stuck, I need help. And the support that I get from you guys is just unbelievable. Every time I have a problem, I reach out to you guys and boom, somebody helps me. Somebody helps me. And it is unbelievable that this community is here. And even if somebody doesn't have the answer, somebody is trying to help. And the support and the community that we have from recently, Miss Darla she ran out of yarn that it was a trial discontinued color of a very specific yarn, and it took a couple of weeks, but by gum, somebody in the yarn community found a couple of stains in their stash and sent it off to her. That's the way this community works. We are always there for each other, and it blows me away. So you guys again jumped in and helped me figure this out. And I wasn't even doing it wrong, and I was beating myself up, and I just couldn't even tell if I was doing it right or not. And I was, but I didn't know if I was or not, and I didn't want to go weeks and weeks of doing this wrong. So thank you again for your help. So here we are. I am past the toe of this thing. Let me see if I can get that picture again and show you guys what I'm doing. And this is a big project for not really wanting to do the project. I'm just trying to learn the process. I'm trying to learn this stitch and how to do all these color changes. So, you know, once I get the color changes down and stuff, I may not even continue on with it for now, because I've got a lot of projects that I want to do. So it might end up, you know, not finished, but definitely not being in the front burner. So this is where we are. We've got the toe done, and we've started the first set of colors. It's going pretty okay. I had to tear it out. I had to tear this row out because the numbers weren't working right. And it was me again. I had counted what I thought I had counted wrong, and ended up I had counted right. And so she's teaching us how to do these color changes. There's a lot of flipping back and forth. And then I just saw another thing where it showed how to flip back and forth without tangling up your yarn so much. The yarn I'm using for this is Basic Stitch, and it was the yarn that was on sale. It just happened to be the yarn that was on sale at Joann's over the Christmas time. So it's the Basic Stitch Anti-Pilling by Lion Brand. This was on sale for like $2.50, and that's the other reason I grabbed this, because it takes one skein of 5 different colors to make this. And I have a feeling we're not using the whole skein of each of the 5 colors. And I did buy 2 of each color because I wanted to do 2 socks, so I probably won't need it. But, you know, so 2, 10, 12 bucks. And I probably won't use all of it. I'm looking for 185 yards, 3.5 ounces, machine wash and dry, 100% acrylic, 4-weight, so it's a solid 4-weight, and it says to use an H 5mm hook, and that's exactly what I'm using. So made in India, and you know, this stuff is just a dream to work with. So that's project number 1, and I've gotten this far on it, which I think is pretty darn good considering the amount of hassle that I went through. However, I did want to say this: when you're working with this, you want to pull your hook up, and I'll do a video just on this stitch one day. But this does hurt my hand. This is not something I could sit and work on for hours and hours, which is a good thing that this is a project for me just to learn how to do this process. I would probably work on this probably no more than an hour, maybe, you know, it's worked in sections. I couldn't even do a whole section. I could not even do a whole section on that. maybe an inch, maybe 3 or 4 rows, and then put it aside. That's something that I'm going to have to be really, really aware of, how my hand feels while I'm working on this, because I don't want to injure my hand. So that's, in fact, I was thinking the other day about counting up the rows and kind of dividing it out and work on that. See how long it would take me. See how long it would take me to get both of them done by Christmas. I'm going to have to work on that, because there's no hurry on it. Even if I only get one done by Christmas and give it to somebody as a gift next year, maybe my person in the Christmas draw as part of their Christmas gift, that's something I'm going to think about, because I don't want to hurt myself. See, that first section has 17 rows to get through it. So gonna think about that. I'm using my new chart keeper for this. This is a great way to keep my chart with that one. So that's the first item I worked on quite a bit this week. The second item that I worked on quite a bit is for my knit along, which is every Sunday morning for several weeks. And this is the first week, which is just the intro week. So the yarn, this is the first block, which is just stockinette stitch. And it's just knit a row, purl a row, knit a row, purl a row. And as we're building this, it's got a built-in border, top and bottom border here. And then on the side, you've got a nice little side border. And the yarn that I pulled, I had a pack from Hirschner's, and it was, you know, I can't pick colors, y'all know me. But this came with these 4 colors already. Let's see if I can pick this up. These 4 colors were in the pack. Beautiful fall colors. So, and this is going to be done about fall. This is marigold. This is currant. Yes, this is currant. This is marmalade. And this is bonfire. This is going to be my border color. And with this knit along, you do 30 squares, so 10 of each of these 3 colors, and this is plenty of yarn to do all of it. That's the thing with knitting, it takes more time, but it does not use as much yarn. So there should be enough of all of these yarns to do all of the panels. And the reason I chose this pattern for the knit along is, as we finish each square, it'll take a quick I forgot the word, you know, to set it, to make it look good. Why can't I think of that word? Anyway, you guys know what I mean. So we'll set it, make it nice and pretty, and then we will connect this square to next week's square, and then you'll have a tiny little bit of one end to sew together. So each week we'll block it, so connect it together and sew in your end. So when we're done with our weeks, we're done with our blanket. Put our border on it, boom, we're done. Because when I do squares, I don't want to end up with this whole big old pile of squares with now what do I do? Because you know I'm never going to finish it if that's the case. This is the Anthology Blanket by the Underground Crafter, and I encourage you to join in with us. If you have any knit, if you can do a knit and a purl, this is a sampler blanket, and we're going to learn a whole bunch of different stitches. This is it, you guys. This is the extent of my knitting abilities at this point. This is it. So I encourage you to join us if you have any. If you can do a knit and a purl, join us. Okay, we're going to learn all the rest of the stitches together, because this is it for me. This is the extent of my abilities right here. Okay, so join in and let's learn a whole bunch of stitches. I hope I can figure it out. I have looked at the first 3 or 4 weeks, and literally it's just, okay, now we're going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Okay, now we're going to knit 2, purl 1. So it's just a little combination of that kind of stuff. That's the whole point of this, is to learn more. So I'm super excited about that. Super. So every Sunday morning, we're going to have an hour-long live. And if you don't knit and you just want to join in and visit, you know me, I'll talk about anything. Okay, so got that done, and I've just got a tiny little bit to finish on that. It's kind of the only two things I worked on this week. I have something pulled to start because Miss Kim over at Yarning for a Smile is doing a thing, and it's called hashtag TWMT, Things We're Making Thursday. So I guess it's a group of people, and they did it last year, and last year they did it a little differently. I think last year what they did was oh shoot, I forgot to bring one thing to show you. I have a finished object and I forgot to bring it. So last year the way they did it was everybody in the group worked, they pulled a pattern and everybody in the group made the same thing. But I guess they're doing it differently this year. And this is the first I've heard of it. You know me, I'm always a little behind. So this year they're pulling an item, and everybody is making the same item, but getting whatever pattern they want. And so you've got a whole month to do it. And use the hashtag TWMT. Things We're Making Thursday, TWMT. Well, this month's subject, the subject for January, is slippers. Well, I've actually been wanting to make slippers for quite some time. And if you go to, in fact, I'll put the link to her video down in the description. And if you go to Miss Kim's video, the name of her video is Knit and Crochet Slippers You Need to Make. She's listed, I don't know, 10 or 12 slippers, and it's just, you don't have to use these, it's just some ideas for slipper patterns. No, I can't even say that. So, it's a mix of knit and crochet slippers because she's more of a knitter than a crocheter, but she's a good friend of the channel, and so we'll forgive her for doing more knitting stuff. But they're just so cute, and I was like, yeah, I don't have time for another thing. Well, then she put up this pattern, dang her. Let me see if I can find it. She put up this pattern for these. Well, you know me and hearts. So, of course, I had to run out and buy yarn to make these. Well, in the meantime, and most of these patterns are free, so you don't even have to buy a new pattern. So, in the meantime, I'm digging around with my stuff, and this is a 3-weight, and I found some nice 3-weight yarn that I was going to use. Well, I was digging, and in fact, it was in the process of trying to figure out that wainscot stitch. I had pulled this out of my stash, and I was using a bigger yarn to figure out that stitch so I could actually see my stitches, and I thought, wow, this is really nice yarn. I should figure out something to do with it. And I went, these would make some nice slippers, and I've got 2 skeins of it. So now, instead of those slippers, I'm going to dig around and find a pattern to use this chunky yarn. And in fact, I think there was even a pattern in here, a basic granny slipper pattern. Nope, not that. But I know there was a pattern in here that used a chunky yarn, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and find a pattern that'll use a nice chunky yarn and make the slippers out of that. That's my goal for that. So I'm going to try to do that today and do that. And then you guys probably remember that I was going to really focus on trying to get some of my whips done. Yeah, I know you've heard this before. But I had actually pulled one to start working on. And so the first whip that I pulled, and I may have even told you this already, but the first whip, watch out, sorry, noisy. The first whip that I had pulled was this one, and I'll tell you why. Then I'll tell you the problem I ran into. It was this, was this knitting project. And the reason I pulled it was because it was done with this Woolies Thick and Quick, and I thought this is gonna work up really fast. It was right handy. I got the pattern. It's marked, I know where I am on the pattern, and I thought this will work up really fast. But here's my little problem. And I think I can fix the little problem. When I started this, I was knitting left-handed, but if you'll remember, I taught myself to knit right-handed to avoid all of the knitting left-handed, right-handed problems. But I can still knit left-handed, and I'll tell you why I know that. When I started working on this, I'm knitting away happy as can be, and then I was watching a video and I'm like, I'm knitting left-handed. And so on the next row, I made a point of doing it correctly, not correctly, doing it right-handed. And if you look really close at my stitches, you can tell right there is where I changed, right there. But I don't think it makes a difference. And again, this block doesn't even matter because this was like a practice block. So, I mean, I barely got started on this. So what I'm gonna do when I get to the end of the row, I'm just gonna start doing it right-handed. And this is such a simple thing. It is basically this in blanket form. I think it's a few rows of stockinette and a few rows of garter. If I recall, stockinette section, knit, simple knit and crochet. I see something that says stockinette section in the instructions. Reverse stockinette. I'll have to look that up, but I think reverse stockinette is garter. Stockinette, double moss stitch. I don't know, but it doesn't look that hard. So that's my plan as of today. That is my plan. I got a whole lot of knitting going on, but I've got one day set aside for working on whips. I've got one day set aside for working on knitting. I have 2 days set aside for working on crochet. And I did not even bring the second crochet day stuff because I haven't started it yet. It's going to be a new thing. And that's going to start next week. But I know I cannot work a whole day on that stocking. There's no way my hand's going to put up for that. In fact, now that I'm thinking out loud here, I might even, now that I kind of have a feel for that, I might put that on my whip day and spin, like instead of spinning a certain number of rows, I might time myself and see how long it takes to do a row and set aside like an hour on my whip day and spend an hour working on that every Friday. That's a good idea. Give myself an hour to work on that every whip because I can't do much more than that. And add that to my whip day. I don't know. We're gonna play around with that, and then I'll pick a different crochet project because in fact I have a big crochet project that has to get done that I'm going to start this week. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add that stocking to my whip day and give it a time limit. And then, because this isn't going to hurt my hand. This is so, and then I'll have the small and then I'll have the big. That'll be really good for my hand. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we've got a plan as usual. And you guys saw what I'm working on. And that's it. We are up to date. Thank you guys so much for popping in. I hope to see you soon. Let's see you guys at bingo on Monday night. And that's it for now. See y'all later. Bye-bye.